about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Dali, 1-877-DOCDALI. So I think Las Vegas is one of the safest places to have a convention, to celebrate your bachelor party, bachelorette party. My bachelorette party was in Las Vegas, although I was working here at the time. And it's a great place, a lot of fun, a lot of great shows, a lot of good food. It's getting kind of pricey, but there's some great places you could go and eat. You could see sports. Overall, if you ask me, is Las Vegas safe? I would say yes. Well, one wife doesn't think so, and she's actually suing one of the hotels here in Las Vegas because her husband hooked up with a prostitute and died. So let me give you a little bit of details with this. And so the wife is now suing the hotel for not protecting him. Jennifer Jacoby is the widow, and she has filed a lawsuit against the Palazzo owners. Why? Well, her husband, Jeff Jacobs, 55 years old, according to Daily Mail, died of a fentanyl overdose while he was there in March 2023. Now, he has 3 children with his wife, but he traveled from Colorado to Vegas for a work conference. And while he was at the Palazzo Hotel, which is exquisite, he met a sex worker named Shaylee Kessie, allegedly. She was at the hotel bar. Now, I'm telling you right now, okay, if you go up to the bar and there's some pretty woman sitting there and all of a sudden she acts like she wants to sleep with you, okay, use some common sense. It's probably not free, okay? Although it was interesting, I was in New York and I was walking around Times Square and somebody looked at me and said, how much? I'm like, really? You think I'm a prostitute? I'm old. I mean, I look like a grandma. Really? And I was actually flattered, going, really? People think I could really pull that off? But no, not flattering. It's bad. So after he met, I guess with, they say that Kessie had a pimp. The pimp's name is Kashawn Glass. And he was seen walking around the casino floor with Jeff for 40 minutes. Now, oh, no, not the pimp. This was the girl. Okay, so they were walking around, getting to know each other. Then they headed to the cashier's cage where Jeff withdrew $1,000 per the lawsuit. The pimp, Glass, followed behind. Jeff and Kessie went up to his hotel room. Kessie then emerged from the room only 8 minutes later. So that was a really fast encounter. Now, the wife, Jennifer, described Jeff as her soulmate and twin flame in his obituary. But she didn't hear from her husband a few hours later. She contacted the hotel several hours later for a welfare check because he had not responded to messages. Hotel staff found Jacoby unresponsive and slumped on the bathroom floor. He died of a fentanyl overdose and was robbed by the prostitute, Kessie. Jennifer and her daughter are now suing Palazzo owners Venetian Casino Resort because they claim they are partly to blame for Jeff's death. They alleged that the security guard should have warned Jeff that he was being followed by Glass, the pimp, while he was walking around for 40 minutes with the prostitute. And Kessie and Glass had a history of targeting hotel guests to rob and victimize them that casino operators were well aware of. So, this lawsuit, may go through and there might be a case. Now, these casinos, it's a tall order to make sure that all their, all their residents or all their customers are safe, making sure somebody isn't stealing or robbing somebody else. Now, I took my son when he was 21 to play blackjack, not because I wanted him to gamble, but I gave him my money and I wanted him to see how easy it is to lose. And he's not a big gambler. He does not like gambling at all. Luck of the draw, he wins, I think, 4 blackjacks in the 15-minute we played. So he actually makes more money. And so I'm like, well, let's cash out. Okay. That wasn't the whole point. We were supposed to lose money, but he's like, don't worry, Mom. I know this was a fluke. It was beginner's luck. I'm not going to play. And he doesn't. He doesn't gamble. But the big mistake he made is he's calling his girlfriend. And he's telling his girlfriend, you won't believe this. I won. while we are walking in the casino towards the cage to cash out chips. And I told him, no, you always look sad. Always look like you lost your ass. You don't walk around a casino acting like you won big money. Okay? Because you're going to be targeted. So walk around like, oh man, this sucked. And then when you're in the car, you could go and tell everybody that you got 4 blackjacks. Okay? But everybody should kind of be aware that we're all targets. Somebody is going to rob you. Somebody is going to want to hit you up. But that also goes for prostitutes. When somebody smiles at you and you're like, I cannot believe a 25-year-old young, beautiful woman who's scantily clad is actually smiling at me. I do have it. It looks like my wife is going blind because, I am hot stuff. Okay, not to burst her bubble. There's a good chance that person's a prostitute. And I get it. Everybody's looking for fun. Everybody wants to go to Vegas and see that. And not everyone, but people want to have that, fling or that one night stand. Women these days, there's not a lot of women that do one night stands, especially with middle-aged men, which means if they're into that, you might want to make sure they're not a prostitute. And now this isn't just about prostitution. Okay? There's more money in robbing you than getting paid for the sex act. And how do they rob you when you're bigger than them and stronger than them? They knock you out. So allegedly she gives them fentanyl. Both of them have been arrested, from what I understand. Both the prostitute and the pimp have been arrested. But I think we all should be aware that this is something that very commonly happens. You think you're going to have a night of pleasure, and no, you're going to be unconscious and robbed. Plus, who knows, also have an STD. That doesn't sound like fun. And in this case, he died. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH, don't go away.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell our listeners who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me join you to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now and find out how much your case is potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. If you think you deserve compensation, call now to find out how much you qualify for. 800-710-5100.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
At Hotshot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
Hotshot Secret Stiction Eliminator.
Stiction, that sticky friction, undermines the performance of diesel engines. Third-party ASTM testing verifies that Stiction Eliminator removes 2 times as much stiction than any alternative on the retail shelf. Stiction Eliminator is formulated to be left in the engine oil. It works as you drive.
Available at truck stops, Tractor Supply, O'Reilly's Auto Parts, and online at HotShotSecret.com. Hotshot Secret. Powered by science.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to TotalWellness.com. Supplements made for physicians, only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Dali, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer. And big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Dr. Daliah or X, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, YouTube, click like and subscribe. And if you ever miss our show, go to drdaliah.com. So RFK Jr., being now Health and Human Services Secretary, promised Americans that he would reevaluate the data as it pertains to vaccines and autism, and why now we have 1 in 36 children on the autism spectrum disorder. And the CDC is going to do its own research now, as opposed to looking at other studies, which some of them might have been funded by pharmaceutical companies. They say that under RFK Jr., the CDC is going to provide, quote, high quality research and transparency. This is from Andrew Nixon, spokesperson for the Health and Human Services. And I like it. I like it a lot. I understand a lot of doctors are like, no, there's been plenty of proof. Now we're going to rehash this again. No, anybody who is against another study is suspect. I'm sorry. Who was it? Was it Chuck Schumer or I don't know. Somebody had said, why are we relitigating Bernie Sanders? Why are we relitigating the study on autism and vaccines? But in science, we always have evolving data. The fact that we went from 1 in 70 to 1 in 42 to now 1 in 36 children having autism, well, there's already your evolving variable. More kids are having autism, but I'm not saying autism is caused by a vaccine. I looked at the studies. I don't think autism is caused by a vaccine. However, what studies have to look at is if somebody is genetically predisposed. Do some of the vaccines or chemicals in the vaccines exacerbate that risk, enhance that risk? Or are some individuals getting a mild encephalitis from the vaccine, some inflammation of the brain, causing them to have neurodevelopment issues that might appear autism-like? Study that. You could study that. Because right now, it's not working. Parents are afraid to give their kids vaccines. So you could say the data proves it's fine. The data proves it's fine. Parents aren't buying it. And if we really want kids vaccinated for measles, we need to prove to the parents that it's safe. And not just the old data saying, oh, yeah, it's safe, it's safe. Well, and the reason why this does have to be restudied is when we gave the MMR vaccine in the 1960s and the 1970s, there was only a few other vaccines we were also giving at the time. So what is different now in 2025 than in the 1960s? Well, we have a lot more vaccines. So has anybody studied, and I'm sure they have, that if you give an MMR vaccine now to somebody who has had multiple other vaccines, does it act identically to the way it did back in the 60s? So you see, there's always new variables. And whenever we have a new situation or a new body or a human who has evolved 50 years, we need to revisit the science. So the CDC will be conducting their own study into whether vaccines cause autism. In a statement to ABC News, Health and Human Services spokesperson Andrew Nixon confirmed that the incoming study is part of the CDC's effort to leave no stone unturned and to pursue high-quality research and transparency on behalf of the American people. He said, as President Trump said in his joint address to Congress, the rate of autism in American children has skyrocketed. CDC will leave no stone unturned in the mission to figure out what exactly is happening. The American people expect high-quality research and transparency, and that is what the CDC is delivering. Now, we don't have a lot of details on how the study is going to be done. It's tricky because once a child, you can't do a longitudinal study where you have these kids and you see how they do, then you give them the shot, and then you see them develop autism. That's difficult. They're probably going to be doing retrospective, and they're going to need to look at videos and medical records of kids and what their communications were, and then did that change after the vaccine, or did the child have a severe headache? Did the child have a severe fever after the vaccine? Was that vaccine given among a whole bunch of other vaccines at the same time? So it is a little tricky, because when a parent says their child had a side effect to a vaccine, could it have also been something else? So like myocarditis related COVID vaccine side effects. Since we know COVID could also cause myocarditis, the argument the CDC made is, well, the myocarditis could have been from COVID, or it could have been from the vaccine. But if you remember the whole myocarditis controversy, the inflammation of the heart, the CDC and Fauci and everybody was saying, data is shown the vaccine is safe. The vaccine is safe. Well, finally, in other countries, they were like, oh, wait a second, there's an issue here. The AstraZeneca might be causing blood clots. The Johnson & Johnson might be causing blood clots. In Canada, they said young men, should not get the Moderna shot because of myocarditis risk. So if every other country is reevaluating the tried and true science they believe from the vaccines are safe, then we should too. And again, I do not believe that the vaccines are causing autism, because I have family members, multiple family members in our distant family that are on the autism spectrum. I think there is a huge genetic component. And so I am not going to ever say any of my family members who ended up getting autism got it from a vaccine. Luckily, my immediate family doesn't have it. But with my extended family, you could see that it was, and I've spoken to family members and go, what did you think? Did you think it was the vaccines? They go, no, because everybody has it in the family. So in their family. So I will probably be one of the last ones to say that the vaccine causes autism. However, the theory that does need to be open is, are some of these children getting a side effect that could then cause them to have a neurodiverse or neurodegenerative disorder? When my son was 2 months old, after his vaccine, he just lied there listless for a good day or two. And I called the doctor going, okay, I know about vaccine reactions, but he just doesn't want to move or do anything. Now, he came out of it okay, but that's when I was like, I'm hoping that didn't affect his brain. Now, thank God it didn't. He's done really, really well. But is there an encephalitis or an encephalopathy or something else that could be very, very rare? Personally, this rise in autism needs a multiple-pronged approach to figure out what the heck is going on, and immediately. CDC could be working on the vaccine. Somebody else needs to be working on our Wi-Fi, all the electromagnetic radiation. What are pregnant moms getting exposed to that could be causing these kids to change? Interesting. I was just at a conference, the Intercollegiate Broadcasting Society, and there were tons of young college students, really amazing, smart, creative people. But I saw a lot of neurodiverse individuals. Many of them were very Aspergery, some of them high-functioning autism, smarter than can be, brilliant. But I have never seen so many younger individuals possibly on the spectrum. What happened 20 years ago? What changed? And so we need to figure this out. Is it that they're, didn't read a book, they watched Baby Einstein or these TV programs or watched tapes or CDs? Is it because they didn't play outside? Is it because they just didn't get a common cold because they were vaccinated for so many things? What happened? And so, the CDC is showing 1 in 36 children born in 2012 were diagnosed with autism. That's a lot. That's huge. Why isn't anybody looking at that? Even if it ends up not being vaccine related, look into it, for crying out flippin' loud. Is it because older parents are having kids? We do know that the older you are, the higher risk you have a child having autism. So I was pregnant. I got married when I was 26 and I had my babies at 28 and 30, which is kind of older. But now we're having, back then, because I was in medical school, but now we're having women not start their families till they're in their 30s, late 30s. Is that a factor? Are fibroids when you're pregnant a factor? Someone needs to look at this. 1-877 Doc Daliah. Dr. Daliah here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Lisa Wolf here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you. And be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Doc Dali, 1-877 DOCDALI. So you're hearing a lot of back and forth on vitamin A and measles. And RFK Jr. had said that vitamin A might be a treatment for measles. I think Dr. Manny on Fox News had been speaking about vitamin A. And I know some of you are like, where is this coming from? So there was a study. I'm sure there's a few studies. One study I'm looking at came out in 2005. And basically, this comes from acute respiratory, the Cochrane Library. And they searched the Cochrane Central Register of Controlled Trials, which contains the Cochrane Acute Respiratory Infections Group Specialized Register. And they looked at a whole bunch of studies. And they analyzed the outcomes of what they saw. And there were multiple trials with inclusion criteria looking at what happened with vitamin A. And this is what they found. The evidence suggested that vitamin A in a single dose was not associated with a reduced risk of mortality with measles. However, 2 doses of vitamin A, 200,000 international units on consecutive days, did reduce the mortality in children less than 2 years old and pneumonia-specific mortality, because some of these kids with measles die from pneumonia. They said 2 doses of vitamin A reduced the incidence of croup as well, but not pneumonia morbidity, nor diarrhea morbidity. And so vitamin A, according to their conclusion, was this: no significant overall reduction in mortality with vitamin A therapy for children with measles was found. However, 2 doses reduced overall and pneumonia-specific mortality in children aged less than 2 years old. No trials directly compared the single dose with 2 doses. So what they're saying is it might not necessarily reduce measles-related sequelae, but if they're prone to the pneumonia, which could kill them, that they could get from measles, the vitamin A might be very helpful. They say 2 doses of vitamin A are not very expensive, and they don't likely produce a lot of adverse events. They also said vitamin A megadoses lowered the number of deaths from measles in hospitalized children under the age of 2. So the authors conclude that vitamin A megadoses appear effective in reducing mortality from measles in children under 2 and have few associated adverse events. There is insufficient evidence, they say, to draw conclusions regarding effectiveness in preventing pneumonia or other complications in children. However, the quality of the evidence was generally moderate. And they want more, they suggest more studies. So this was a 20-year-old study, but fascinating. So this is kind of where the vitamin A, some of that data is coming from. And so, do I think it's a cure? See, with viruses, it's tricky. We don't have a lot of antivirals. We have antibiotics, we have antivirals, antifungals, and they work interestingly. So with an antibiotic, sometimes how these antibiotics work is they break down the cell wall of the bacteria so that bacteria can't necessarily grow and divide. Sometimes antibiotics make the environment unhospitable for certain pathogens to divide. With antivirals, they try to stop the body from absorbing the virus, because once the virus gets in, it makes that cell churn out more viruses. Other antivirals could stop those viruses from getting released. So these all work in different manners, and it's because they're different pathogens. And so there might be something to a vitamin that either helps you become more resistant, helps boost your immune cells to fight the virus, interferes with the virus from being absorbed. I can't say the medications out loud because I could, YouTube says it's against their algorithm against content. So let's just say it starts with an I and it starts with an H. So those two medications in early COVID, one rhymes with Rectin and another rhymes with Harley Quinn. Okay, all right. So whenever I talk about it, apparently I get banned on YouTube. It says I'm going against community guidelines. But where some of that data was coming from, where studies in other countries had found that it prevented the virus from being taken in, the COVID virus, or it acidified the phagocytosis or the phagosome, the pocket that the cell used to bring in the virus. And the acidity, because of the medication, prevented a good capture and that virus living long enough to get into the cell. And it was an acidification of the phagosome. So when you start looking at why some of these medications are being brought up, it's fascinating what the biochemical and the pathophysiological process is. And so when somebody tells me, yeah, there's a study saying vitamin A helps, certain viruses, I'd love to see the data, but sounds good to me. When COVID first came out, that very first month we heard about it, even though we knew it was here longer, University of Virginia physician had posted things that he thought would help us fight COVID. And he included the I word that rhymes with Bectin. I have to be so careful because YouTube could kick off my show in a heartbeat. So I can't say the word. If I use it, for some reason, the algorithm kicks. But he had Zithromax. He had all sorts of things. Zinc, vitamin C. And he listed a whole bunch of things that could be used. And this is what a lot of hospitals were using. And this came from an East Virginia medical school. So we all have to kind of get on the same page and have an open mind as to what and where we study and why we study it and what applications do we have. Look at marijuana. If you told doctors in the 1960s that marijuana will be prescribed and there is a health indication and it'll help little kids so they don't get seizures, you would say, what the heck are you talking about? And here we are today with pharmaceutical grade marijuana for people who suffer from chemotherapy-related nausea, and for people with Dravet's, a severe seizure disorder. We have to stop and relook at the science. That's just what we need to do. I know everybody wants to make fun of RFK and the vitamin A, but I'm looking at a 2005 study that actually is a part of the NIH, the National Library of Medicine, NIH, has this study in there. That doesn't mean everybody needs to be getting vitamin A, but we should study it. Why can't we study it? Now, speaking of the Health and Human Services Secretary, Health and Human Services, we're being told that employees are being offered a $25,000 incentive to voluntarily leave. So employees of HHS have been offered $25,000 to leave, to help downsize. In an email sent on Friday, led by RFK Jr., they have received authorization from the Office of Personnel Management to offer voluntary separation incentive payments. They are downsizing or restructuring to offer employees lump sum payments of up to $25,000 as an incentive to voluntarily separate. The payment is available to most employees within the HHS, and it includes the CDC, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, FDA, and NIH. Employees also have the option to take the payment if they are eligible for option or early retirement. So that's nice that they're giving a severance, but my only problem with this is those individuals that say, no, I want to work for you. I love my job. You don't have to pay me to leave. I'll be here in the long run. Are they going to get fired in April? Are they going to get fired in June? 80,000 people currently work for the HHS. 1-877 Doc Daliah, don't go away.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-910-7500. That's 800-910-7500. Call now to find out how much your case could be worth.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center, may not be available in all states.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
Diesel fuel cetane levels.
the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions, Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World, for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Daliah, 1-877 DOCDALI. Okay, this next segment is going to be PG-13, a little higher. So if your kids are in the car, definitely maybe kind of lower the volume on this one, or just listen to the podcast. Because I understand we're on the radio. Thank God we're on the radio, but you'd have to shut off the radio if you don't want your kids to hear this. So every year we get a study on sexual activity and how important it is for our health, whether it relates to prostate cancer, whether it relates to our oxytocin, hormones, metabolism, intimacy. Well, we have another article talking about how having frequent sex is good for you and how not having sex is not good for you. And so to reiterate some of the health benefits, and I'll talk to you if you're kind of in the sort of situation where you can't very easily have sex. We'll talk about that as well. But, according to health experts, the oxytocin, the dopamine, the dopamine, the endorphins are good. And these help you feel better, which is why a lot of us seek sex and a lot of us feel better after sex. But it's also very similar to what we get when we exercise. And maybe it's the exercise of sex, or maybe it's just the fact that you're having that buildup and your heart rate going up and all the other things that happen physiologically when you do have sex. But when we say you need to frequently exercise, you can't just sit there and not do things. The same thing goes for sex. If things are dormant, that's not good for them. That if you don't use it, you lose it is a concern. So it helps your anxiety. It helps, in terms of relationships, there's been study after study saying people who are in couples or married live longer than people who are single. The intimacy, having somebody who cares about you, having somebody watch and worry about you is life-saving. So that's very, very important. And sex can help build that relationship, obviously. The immune system is fascinating. There was a study with college students. I want to find that. There was a study with college students where those college students who were having sex more than a few times a week, they found their immune system was was stronger. I want to find that study and share that with you. And then it's interesting. So when I was a teenager and I was having horrible cramps, my friends were telling me you need to have sex. And I'm like, no, God will get mad at me. I need to wait till I'm married. I can't be doing that it'll help with the cramps. You need to have sex. And my friends who were, very, very, I don't want to use the word slutty, but very amorous and involved and very sexually active, didn't seem to have as bad a cramps as I did. I picked up on that. I just figured I still needed God on my side, so I did not have sex in high school. But they do find that oftentimes that does help. Your pelvic floor and your strength in that. A lot of women struggle with urinary incontinence. Well, if you're using your pelvic muscles and your vaginal muscles during sex, that will tighten things up. We tell people to Kegel, where they contract their pelvic floor muscles to kind of strengthen things and build that muscle up so you don't lose your urine every time you laugh or cough or sneeze. Well, sex is, very, very nice, shall we say, opportunity to Kegel. So there's a lot of advantages. And then there's been studies looking at men and prostate cancer risk. How prostate cancer risk might go down the more they have sex or ejaculates to keep things moving down there. So, yeah, I know it's a study that it's a headline that a lot of news articles are going to use for clickbait, etc. But what nobody is talking about is what if you're in a relationship where you don't have a lot of sex? And so, and it's very, very common. There's a lot of relationships, I think from the Journal of Psychosocial Health, where there was a study looking at, it's very common that many individuals are having sex less than once a week. And I know people always kind of panic because they'll watch TV and it looks like they're having sex 3 times a day. And they're like, but we're not having that. And why not? Why does sex go down, when you're in longer relationships? Well, one is, there's, youth helps a little bit. The hormones help. Changes that happen in terms of you being able to get erections or you being able to have vaginal lubrication, those change. Also, relationships may change where, to them, you were a 10 and now you look like a 2. And so it's okay to be a 2. We all become 2s, but that sometimes doesn't really help. And then a lot of individuals, they just start having a loss in sex drive. Evolutionary wise, for women, sex drive falls because if a woman is, let's say, at an age where they are advanced maternal age and babies necessarily might not be as healthy as if they had babies 20 years prior, the body tries to protect the future human species by making those individuals less randy. However, we still do have sex drives. People think that the sex drive drops when you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. No, not at all. You can still have sex drive. Absolutely, all the way through. And you should still have sex. Make sure you use condoms. Make sure you protect yourself. But I live in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I work a lot with the senior community, and I speak, with them. I, do talks, etc. Boy, so many of them are sexually active. And they love having sex. They love having the intimacy, and good for them. It's a great exercise. You burn calories. It's fun. I think it's fantastic. But there's a lot of individuals who want to be sexually active, and their partner doesn't want that. And so there are other things you could do together to be intimate, even if it doesn't necessarily mean the whole time is just between you two. And so talk to your partner about that. We don't want there to be a situation like this, what happened in this Las Vegas hotel, where the wife in Colorado was suing the hotel because her husband was going to sleep with a prostitute. Okay, we don't want anybody going to prostitutes. We don't want anybody cheating. And there are marriage counselors or your medical provider that can talk about options of way to still being intimate and still having love and being able to enjoy a very fruitful sexual part of your relationship without necessarily it involving every single piece to that. And so there's ways to be creative. But I do think sex overall, if you're using condoms, if you are not getting an STD, if you're not hurting yourselves and tearing or using foreign bodies that could hurt yourself, if you're doing the more traditional type, it is extremely beneficial. And I know with relationships things change, and what was that analogy? People said the first year, I forget what movie this was. They said for the first year, you put a penny in a jar for every time you have sex. And then they say after that first year of marriage, you pull a penny out after every time you've had sex. And they say the average couple will never get through all those pennies. And why after a year? Really just a year? So, I understand that there are a lot of, individuals out there that might not necessarily like sex. There's vaginismus and other conditions that make it uncomfortable. Some men are embarrassed about not being able to make erections, or they just can't have an erection with their spouse, but they could do so with porn. So there's a lot of there's a lot of lack of communication. The way to fix your sex life is to communicate. It's very easy to communicate. What if you don't want to have sex because your partner doesn't shower and they stink? Well, then what you do is have sex in the shower or get into the bubble bath. Say, I'm going to wash you. You don't have to say why, okay? And then after a while, they'll be like, okay, they only want to have sex with me when I shower. Maybe it's because they I go, this soap turns me on. It's better to communicate, so you don't have to lie. But there's ways around a sexless relationship. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.